Hi everybody. Okay, so this video is for those of you who are finished with your flashcards. You may or may not have been here on Friday, but you got your flashcards done. You're ready to go. You're ready to move on. If you have not finished your flashcards, stop watching this video. Go back and watch the video that's titled Instructions if you didn't get your flashcards done, and then move forward from there. All right, today is Tuesday, September 2nd. We have three things that we're going to work through this video today. Number one, I'm going to remind you how you need to submit your flashcards for grading. Number two, we're going to review your vocabulary terms really quickly, and I'm going to explain the practice test that I have in today's folder. And then number three, we're going to work through some notes. Your homework is this. If you do not finish this video, then you need to finish it either at home or during guided study. Today's a B day. Everybody has a guided study, so you should be able to get the video finished today. Okay? If you have any questions, I'm out of the classroom or out of the building this morning and up until lunchtime, we'll say. Okay? I am coming back. I have to do some testing for Hal, and I most likely will finish that during guided study. So if you have a question, something that's a really important thing, and you cannot wait until tomorrow, send me an email, and then I can come and find you during your guided study, during the last half of guided study, and I can help you out. If it's something that can wait till tomorrow, then I'll be here tomorrow and we can take care of it then. All right, let's jump in. So if you need to submit your flashcards, I'm going to explain how to do that. Now listen carefully. If you have already shown your flashcards to me, you did that on Friday, and you have the 10 points, you don't need to do this. Go ahead and just kind of either listen to it or fast forward and move on. Before you begin to fast forward, though, listen to this. I need everybody to go to Schoology, and if you have the points, you're good. If you don't, then make sure that you submit them. And the reason why I'm asking you to double check the points, friends, I am a human being, and sometimes I make mistakes. Sometimes I don't remember. Sometimes when kids are lining up and showing me flashcards, I think I put the grade in and I had forgotten maybe one or two people. So let's just make sure that you have your 10 points if you think you should have your 10 points. If you do, awesome. If not, just submit them and then everybody's going to be good. Okay? Here's what you're going to do. I cannot have you give me your flashcards and put them in the white basket. Do not do that. I need you guys to keep your flashcards because you need to start learning those definitions. Your test is on Thursday, so you need to get to know these. You're going to lay the terms or lay your flashcards out exactly like this. You all have 10 flashcards. You're going to lay them with the term side up. So this is your word faced up. Take a picture and then flip them over, and then the definition is on the back. So make sure that you show me like that one on the top left. That one would be, let's just pretend that is stimulus. Then I should have the definition for stimulus exactly right there. What I'm looking for very quickly is that your definitions and your terms match. So don't put them out of order. Make sure that you just flip them over, take another picture. So now you have two pictures. You are going to go to your photos, select, pick those two photos, those two pictures that you just took, and then you're going to share or export, and then go ahead and do everything what you would do normally for Schoology when you're handing in an assignment. Go ahead and choose Schoology. You're going to go to Science. You're going to hit Submit for an assignment. And the name of the assignment is How the Brain Learns Flashcards. So go ahead and stop the video. Do what you need to do. Make sure you follow these steps. Make sure you wait. See that green timestamp banner going across. Make sure you've got them turned in. And then start the video again. You're ready to go. Okay, the next thing I need to do is make sure that you all fill out your homework calendars. Your homework today is to finish watching the video. Whatever you don't get done in class, You need to make sure and finish that. Everybody has a guided study today, so you've got time to do that. Make sure you get it done. I also want you to move to Thursday, September 4th in your calendar. And I want you to write down that you have a vocabulary test. And I want you to write down that you have to write down the definitions. This is not a matching test. Now, those of you guys who did not study or don't plan on study, I'm going to tell you something right now. Your formative assessments are 10 points each, and they're worth 30% of your grade. Your tests are summative assessments. They're worth 100 points, and they're worth 70% of your overall grade. So you may be doing awesome. You've got 100% in science. If you're not studying and you know you have to write in the definitions, but you didn't study them and you have no idea what they are, and you get a failing grade on this test, it's going to tank your grade. So please take this serious. Please use your strategies, your intake strategies, your learning preference strategies to study. Please, that's the whole point of this unit, is learning how your brain learns and then practicing that through this vocabulary test. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and get started. You guys, we are going to, I want to show you real quick in today's folder, you see this PDF that is your vocabulary practice test. It looks like this. You're welcome to put this in GoodNotes. And then you can just continue to use this over and over and over again to practice writing in your definitions. This literally is your test. On Thursday, when I say everybody take everything off your desk, this is what I'm going to hand out. You're not going to fill it in digital. You are going to fill in a paper copy. Okay? So this is when I say I want you guys to, especially kinesthetic learners, read writers, really everybody, you guys need to at some point in time practice writing out the definitions. And this is what you're going to get. Okay, so this practice test is in today's folder in Schoology. You may begin practicing writing your definitions starting today. You don't have to turn any of this in. This is just for you to practice. Okay, now we're ready to take notes. There's paper copies on the rolling table at the front of the room. Everybody's going to grab a paper copy. It's 3-hole punched. You're going to leave it in your binders. Okay. If you don't get finished with the notes in class today, don't put it in your green binder. Put it in your orange homework binder, and you need to finish your notes. And then tomorrow you'll put them back in your green binder. You guys are going to need some markers or some colored pencils. You'll need green and yellow. You can use highlighters if you want to. That's fine. You're going to need orange. You're going to need dark blue, light blue, and purple. So pause the video, go get what you need. If you have your own, that's awesome. Keep going. If not, pause the video, get what you need from me. And friends, I'm going to tell you something right now. If that area with your markers is an absolute mess when I come back, Mama's not going to be happy. Please make sure if you borrow my stuff that you put it back nicely, okay? Okay, so the first thing that you're going to notice is that we have on the front page, I've got just some fill in the blanks for you. This is just your definitions. And so when I give you notes, I will fill in the blanks for you with red. You guys are just going to use your regular pen or pencil to fill in the notes. And then I want to talk a little bit more about stimulus and response to stimulus. I've got some examples for you, and then I've got some videos I'm going to show you and other examples. So let's start off with the definition, okay? Hopefully you guys remember because you've been studying, but a stimulus is a change in the environment that triggers a response. Go ahead. You guys, as I'm going, if you need to pause the video, obviously, so you can write things in, do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep talking, okay? So this stimulus, this change in the environment can either be internal or external. I like to write I or E underneath it when we talk about the examples down below. I may talk to you about, do you think this is an internal or is it an external stimulus? remember that the environment then can either be an outside environment, outside your body environment, or an internal, inside your body environment. The stimulus is a change, and the change is caused by the response. So the definition for response is a reaction to a stimulus. A reaction to a stimulus. So if you guys remember on Friday or on Thursday when I was telling the story about walking on the beach, and then we went into that shack, and then I screamed, and then you all had these reactions. I want you to think about what happened first. I screamed first, and then you had the response to the stimulus. I want you to go ahead and grab your green highlighter or green marker. And I just want you to, if you have a marker and if you go over the word, it's going to cover the word up. I don't want you to do that. But do go ahead and put a green box around the word stimulus. If you're using green pencil, that should be totally fine. If you're using a highlighter, then go ahead and highlight that. But from now on in our notes, anything that is a stimulus, I'm going to highlight in green. And the response I'm going to highlight in yellow. And this is a great visual strategy as you're working through the notes. If you can kind of categorize something, and if you've got examples, that's a great kinesthetic. You guys need examples. But then it's also a great way just visually for me to identify, test myself, quiz myself. Am I able to identify stimulus and response? So let's take a look at these examples down here. I've got 4 examples. The first one, the first bullet, I was sweating when I ran the mile in PE. I was sweating when I ran the mile in PE. I want to ask you, what was the stimulus? What was the change in the environment? Now, you might be tempted to say that you ran and that you sweat in response to running, but that's not what happened. You ran, which increased your internal body temperature. And in a response to that, your body starts to sweat to cool you down. So next to that example, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down the words, I got hot, and then highlight that or put a line under it or put a box around it in green, however you're doing it. I got hot, like my body temperature increased. And the response to me getting hot, the response to your body temperature increasing is that you sweat. So you got hot because you ran. So I could say that I ran is a stimulus and the response is I got hot. That would work. But I just want you to kind of I'm going to hang on to this one. I got hot and that's why I sweat. Take a look at the second one. I had a headache, but it went away after I took some Tylenol. I had a headache, but it went away after I took some Tylenol. Again, this might seem pretty straightforward. I had a headache and then I took Tylenol. But see, you took the Tylenol. It wasn't the headache didn't trigger you taking Tylenol. So that can't be the correct answer. The stimulus is actually you took the Tylenol. And the chemicals in the Tylenol relieved your headache. Isn't that interesting? Let's take a look at the fourth one. I jumped when I heard Mrs. Clayton scream. I'm hoping this is an easy one for you guys to identify. What's the stimulus? We all know last Thursday I asked you, what's the stimulus? You said, I screamed. Good. What was your response to the stimulus? What was the change that was triggered by that scream? And it was, I jumped, or whatever it is that you did. Let's take a look at that last example. I always get goosebumps in Mrs. Clayton's room because it's so cold. So again, what is the change that triggers the response or the reaction? So the stimulus is I got cold. Not that my room is cold. Um, not, not that kind of happened before. And sometimes in science, we have to just kind of wait. We have to think about what are the step by step moments in science and slow it down a little bit. And then we're able to pull out what that stimulus was. So the stimulus was I got cold. My body temperature decreased. I was cold. And as a result or as a response to that, I get goosebumps. And it's really interesting. Goosebumps are actually every single hair on your arm has a really teeny tiny muscle attached to that hair follicle, that little hair pore follicle called pilar muscle. And it contracts, which actually pulls the hair straight up, and it pulls in that pore. It closes the pore, and then that preserves your body temperature. So goosebumps are literally your body's response to an internal decrease in your temperature, trying to maintain that heat and that warmth. And so that's the response. Great job. Let me know if you have any questions about this, okay? Or if you're like, yeah, I kind of get that stimulus response. If you have any questions, let me know. Let's move on. Okay. The identification of stimulus and response might be a little tricky for you. What you have to remember is that the stimulus comes first and the stimulus triggers the response. It's almost like the response is not, how do I say this? It's like you don't have to think about the response, it just happens. The response would not occur unless there was a stimulus right prior to it. Okay, a couple of things I want to show you here. When we get to talking about plants in just a couple of weeks, I thought, what would be a great idea is if I showed them a stimulus and response having to do with plants. And so I want to talk to you about phototropism, geotropism, and heliotropism. If you look, the Greek prefix, and actually it's a Greek root, the Greek root for photo is light. And geo means earth or ground, and helio means sun. So you see in the words to the right, phototropism, geotropism, heliotropism. So the word tropism literally is translated from the Greek to mean a directional movement response to a stimulus. So phototropism is a movement response to the stimulus light. And let me take you to a video.
Empower your students to be more authentic, impactful writers with Grammarly's comprehensive AI writing assistance.
Sorry about it. Here we go. All right, so this is, if you'll notice, the light source is on the left-hand side. And so as the plants are growing, phototropism is when plants grow towards the light. They need that light in order to undergo photosynthesis, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So here's this plant's growing probably about anywhere from 14 to 21 days, growing nice and tall. But now they're going to change the direction of the light to the other side. Phototropism is a response that moves the direction of plant growth. Isn't that amazing? That is so cool. I just love that. Okay, I'm going to stop that, come back here. So that's phototropism, a directional movement response to the stimulus. If you change the direction of your light or the light source, then the plant will move as a result. And you may see this if you've got plants at home and they're growing towards the window, and you turn the plant a little bit, it'll make it like grow towards the window again. It's pretty cool. Second one I want to show you is called geotropism. Geo means earth or ground, and geotropism simply is this. I'm going to mute this. So geotropism is when, I'm going to pause it because I want to explain this. Geotropism is in response to gravitational force, but it's also having to do with how plants grow on Earth. In other words, the plant grows up and the roots grow down. That happens all the time. And so, what happens if you would move the plant? So, we've got two plants here. I got to pause this and kind of explain what you're looking at. You've got two plants that are, they're two containers, the same plants. Both of them had the same light source in the same position, which is like right above it. But then, and during hour 31, the scientist takes the plant on the left and turns it on its side and did not change the direction of the light. The light is still at the very, very top. But look what happens. Because of geotropism, it's also called gravitropism, plants still want to grow up and the roots want to grow down. And so this plant is the container of, with these little bean sprouts is still growing up. Even though it's been turned on its side, it is growing up. And so then later on, they changed the direction again. And you can see that geotropism, that movement response to a stimulus of changing the direction of the container. The plant will always want to grow up and the roots will always want to grow down. All right, that's geotropism. The last one I'm going to show you is called heliotropism. Helio is the root word for the sun. And so a great way to explain this is, I want to pause it until I make this big here. So sunflowers, you may or may not have heard this. Sunflowers move and always face the sun. That's not 100% accurate. This is a really great video that shows that young sunflowers move their stems to follow the sun during the day, but the older sunflowers tend to just kind of stay in one direction. I'm going to start this all the way at the very beginning, and I want you to watch that plant actually bends and is following the sun as it travels across the sky from east to west. And during the night, it sort of resets itself. So then when the sun rises in the east again the next morning, it's going to go ahead and follow that same pattern, that same path. So I'm going to show this again really quick. So here's the sun rising and moving across the sky, going from east to west. And the stimulus is the movement of the sun across the sky. The response is called heliotropism, and it is the movement of the plant from east to west and then resetting itself overnight. And then it's going to do the same thing again the next day. Absolutely fascinating. Science is so cool, isn't it? Okay, let's keep going. What am I doing here? Okay. So other examples that you may be thinking of. If you have a cold, think about all the different responses to stimuli. If you have debris in your nose, you're going to sneeze. If you have debris or any kind of foreign something in your lungs, you're going to cough. If you have a fever, you're going to sweat. If you you may not be hungry. The response to a virus in your body may be that you're just not hungry, that your body needs all the energy to fight that virus, and so you're just not going to be hungry. Another one would be if you have some kind of a bacterial infection or a virus infection, your response to that stimulus might be to throw up. So, great examples. Here's another example over here. Oh, shoot. This one I really wanted you to see. Hang on. I'm going to get rid of this. Move it over, maybe. What about if I'm going to add that and then add this? Oh, that's not even going to do anything. Sorry, I wanted to show you this picture here. If you're a person and you accidentally touch something hot, you don't even think about, oh my goodness, I'm touching something hot. I should probably move my hand. It's an immediate response to the stimulus to move your hand away. If you step on something sharp, it's an immediate stimulus to pick your foot up. If you bite your tongue or you bite your cheek, it's an immediate response to open your mouth to release your tongue or your cheek. You jump, you open your mouth. Those are responses to stimulus. The crying. Oh, I didn't want to do that one on this page. I'm getting rid of this just because I don't want to. I don't want this to be on here. Oh, forget it. I'm wasting time and I don't want to mess with it. Sorry. I picked this picture because I actually looked up the term, or I looked up pictures. The phrase that I used was watery eyes, because if it's a windy day and you get something in your eyes are going to water. That is a this the stimulus is debris or dust or something in your eye, and the response is that your body makes a lot of liquid fluid to try and flush it out. But I was looking at this picture and I thought she looks actually like she's crying, and I thought, well, you know what, crying is a response to stimulus too. It's an emotional response, a response to an emotional stimulus, which is really, really interesting, because then you think, isn't it amazing how our bodies know that if I have a foreign object in my eye, I need an overabundance of that lacrimal fluid, tears, to flush it out. But also, if I'm having an emotion, I need to cry. That's fascinating to me. That's just fascinating to me. I think that's so cool. All right. So you get the idea. Response, stimulus. Love it. Let's get on. So, what is a neuron? This next section of notes has to do with the 6 words that are in the middle column, the middle grouping. We're going to talk about a neuron, and I'm pulling in definitions when we have them. And then there are just a few words here that on with these notes that are not vocabulary terms, and I'm going to give you definitions for those too, just so that you understand how everything works. So the picture that you have in front of you, the blank document, the blank diagram picture, that is a drawing of a neuron, okay, as best as we can for 7th grade, because I want you to understand it. But friends, we're in 7th grade. You guys will learn a lot more about this when you're freshmen in high school taking biology class. Let's start with the definition. What is a neuron? I'm pulling this just from your vocabulary, okay? A neuron is a specialized cell that transmits nerve impulses. I'm going to let you go ahead and write that and start your video again. So, a neuron is a specialized cell that transmit nerve impulses. I'm going to show you this video. Of course, we can't. I don't have a video of neurons actually working, right? That would be pretty near impossible. But I do have this that is super cool, and I want to play the sound with this one here. And so I'm going to make a large screen and play the sound. Here I go.
Neurons communicate with each other, relaying messages throughout your body and powering all of your thoughts and actions. Neurons talk to each other using both electrical and chemical signals. Messages start as electrical signals traveling rapidly down a neuron. These signals are called action potentials. When they reach the gap between two neurons, the messages need some help to get across. The information is transformed from an action potential into a chemical message, which crosses the gap called a synapse. The release of those chemical messengers can trigger an action potential in the neuron on the other side of the synapse, conveying the message onward. Or it can quiet the message. This happens over and over and over. And with repeated activity, the synapse gets stronger, so the next message is more likely to get through. That way, neurons learn to pass on important messages and ignore the rest. This is how our brains learn and adapt to an ever-changing world.
Friends, is that not amazing? I'm going to go back to a couple things here really quickly. This right here, and I'm going to pause it while I play it. Nope, I think I just did something I didn't want to do. Oh, don't you love when that happens? Hang on.
Neurons
There we go.
communicate with each other.
All right, so when they're showing this part with the synapse, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. This right here. When you're looking at your dendrite, when you're looking at your neuron, you're going to see the axon. The end of the axon is where this gap is. When we're learning new information, I'm going to use your vocabulary terms as an example. When you are intaking new information and you're learning it for the first time, this is how that information, you guys are reading. I need you just to think about this because it's mind-blowing. This blows my mind. You are looking at letters and putting them together and making meaning out of a word that's made out of letters that symbolize sound and symbolize tangible and intangible thoughts and ideas and objects. Okay? Let's start with the word stimulus. You're reading that word stimulus. You flip over your card. You're reading the definition of stimulus. This is what's happening in your neurons right now. That is a transfer of information. Isn't that amazing? Now, this part over here, when she said sometimes messages are quieted, I do want to talk about this too. I think this is interesting. Remember that example of stimulus and response to stimulus I talked about? I have a headache, so I took a Tylenol, and now I don't have a headache anymore. That's how this works. So that Tylenol is a chemical, and that chemical message then goes through my neuron, and it quiets my headache. You want to know something? Your headache is still there. It's still there. You just don't recognize it because of the Tylenol. That's fascinating to me. And then, going back to that original, you guys are studying your vocab terms over and over and over again. And now your impulses are becoming more like you're remembering those impulses. And that's how we learn. That's how your brain learns. Isn't that amazing? That's so cool. I think that I'm going to go ahead and have you, let's finish with this, okay? I'm going to have you color your X or your neuron. You guys see that there is what do you call that? A key. Good grief, I was losing my brain. Which is ironic because I'm going to talk to you about that on your neurons. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Sorry. So take a look at that color key. And the last thing I want you guys to do today is go ahead and color code your neuron. So you've got the dendrite is dark blue. The soma or the cell body is orange. Inside the soma, that's where we have the nucleus. That's going to be green. You have your myelin sheath. That's kind of like a fatty outer layer of your axon. So that myelin sheath is going to be blue, but that whole structure there is the axon. And so I took purple and I drew a little bracket and I'm saying from here to here, that's my axon. And you can't really tell that it's the axon because you've got that myelin sheath over it, but that's the axon. And then lastly, the yellow at the very end, that looks like the dendrites. It's not. That's called the axon terminal. I'm going to have you guys color and then put your stuff away. And if you have any time left at the end of class, you can go ahead and study your vocab, not with a partner. You are working independently. All right, great work today, you guys. See you tomorrow.